Hi Holly, how you going?
Good, thanks, Pato. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Thanks for coming on and congratulations on your run at Dead Cow Gully.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. It's always fun to have a chat with you.
Yeah, yeah. But I had you on as a guest back in, I had a look, it was the 11th episode back in 2022. So you're one of the OGs.
Yes, I remember that was when you were just getting the podcast up and running, and I can't believe it's still going and still getting better with every episode.
Yeah. Well, this is episode 124 now. So
Wow, very impressive.
yeah, it's hard to believe. But I mean, you've done so much since then.
Yeah, quite a few different things since then.
Yeah, I had a look on DUV. So I was thinking, let's just list the ones that are on DUV, even the races that weren't backyard ultras. So after you were on the podcast, you finished first at Gone Nuts 101.
Yes, yep, trail run in Tassie.
Yeah, was that a course record?
It was, yes.
Yeah, and then you ran 38 yards at No Time to Die to finish as the assist.
Yes, that's right. That was
Yeah.
a cold and nasty race.
um, but then I remember in 23, like you did have a bit of an injury as well, right?
Uh, Probably, yes. I have injuries. I have stress fractures all the time, and I wouldn't be surprised if I had one in 23. I definitely had a stress reaction at the end of last year when I was leading up to the 24-hour Su Chow. Um, but I can't remember what happened in 23 exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember you were planning on running at Dead Cow Gully, the Masters in 23, but you had to pull the pin on that because of the stress fracture you must have had.
Yes, that's right. I was diagnosed with it about a week before we were due to go to America to do Boston Marathon.
Right.
Um, so we did end up going because it was a bit too late to cancel the trip, and I just ended up jogging Boston Marathon because I didn't want to miss out on that once in a lifetime opportunity. It was a pretty stupid thing to do, really, because if I had have completely fractured my hip and ended up in hospital in America, it would have cost us our life savings. But
Yeah.
it's thankfully went well, and yeah, I would have had to have some time off after I came back to Australia from that.
Yeah. What have you learned as far as preventing these stress fractures from reoccurring? Like, what have you changed to stop them happening?
Well, I've been working with an endocrinologist. So she is an endocrinologist, someone that looks at your hormones. So she's tested all my estrogen levels and this sort of thing, and given me some hormone replacement therapy type stuff. So that's supposed to help because estrogen helps with your bone health. Just eating more, and I guess one of the things that you're supposed to do is reduce the amount of stress in your life, but that's easier said than done, I think, when you're juggling a lot of balls. But
Yeah.
I'm certainly conscious of that and try to manage my stress levels a little bit better.
Yeah. So what do you do like when you're not running and when you're not thinking about running and you're not also not thinking about work? Like, what do you do to relax?
I don't really have much time to relax. I work full time and I'm also doing a PhD part time. So I spend a lot of time staring at screens, which I dislike. And that's why I'm not very good with social media and stuff, because when I finally do get a chance to detach from the computer screen, the last thing I want to do is pick up my phone and respond to messages, respond to emails, do Instagram and that sort of thing. I do a little bit of reading. I like to listen to true crime podcasts, and I try and get in a 10-minute meditation every day. And that's probably the extent of my relaxation.
Yeah, cool. And I guess you sleep. So it sounds like sleeping is the most relaxation you get.
Yes, sleeping is key. I've been very diligent in trying to get my 8 hours every night, to the point of I rearrange training. Like I flew back from Tassie on Monday night, and I was meant to go to track on Tuesday morning, but because the flight was so delayed, I ended up getting home really late. And I thought, even though that's my key session on the Tuesday morning, if I only get 6 hours sleep, I'm putting myself at increased risk of injury if I if I progressed with that. So I had a bit of a sleep in and went to the track on my own on Wednesday morning instead.
Yeah, cool. Do you wear your watch to bed and like measure how your heart rate and stuff like that?
Yes, I do. I don't set down a lot of time for data analysis and looking at that sort of thing, but I can tell if it's sort of well outside of my usual range. And then, yeah, depending on how I feel as well, I might adjust the training or what I've got on for that day. But also sort of conscious that it's just one element that you need to take into consideration and that your watch doesn't tell you the whole story about what's going on in life.
Yeah, yeah. So 24 in last year, you finished first at the Bel Air 50K?
Yes, yes, that was the first time they'd run the 50K event there, and it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. First at the Yandina 50.
Yes, that was about a week after we moved to Queensland, and it was like a mud, it was just a, one of those like the Tough Mudder events where you slide through the
Yeah,
mud for about 40 of those Ks.
right. Um, and you broke nearly every timed Ultra Australian record when you ran the 24-hour track invitational. Which records did you break in that run?
In that run, I broke the 12-hour record, which I already held. So I increased that by about 6 or 7 kilometers. And then I broke the 100-mile time record. Don't ask me what it was, somewhere in the 13 hours, I think. And then the 200K record, which was at about 17 hours. And then things went downhill from there, but I just managed to collect the open distance record for 24 hours.
Yeah, cool. And were you aware of all these records you were breaking while you were running?
No, I didn't think about any of those intermediate records when I started the race. And it was only when my support crew told me that I was going to break my own 12-hour record that I sort of had that realization. And then as soon as that was done, they said, well, keep going because you're not far away from the 100-mile record. And then when that was done, it was like, okay, now you've got the 200. So it just kept me going. And then I think the adrenaline, when I passed that 200K mark and there was still 7 or 8 hours left to run, I think the adrenaline sort of wore off. And then there was an issue with the timing and they sort of lost count of where we were up to. And that really through me. I wasn't didn't have a mental coping strategy for that sort of eventuation. So I sort of lost the plot a bit and ended up walking for quite a while. And then I stopped with about an hour and a half to go. So I knew that I'd be able to improve on that distance quite significantly the next time I gave it a go, which I did show this year that I could do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I reckon that would have thrown nearly everyone off, like not knowing how far you were running and stuff like that. I reckon nearly everyone probably would have stopped or started walking in that
Yes,
situation.
yeah. You have to go in with plans of how you will cope with things that go wrong.
Yeah.
But that certainly wasn't something that I had thought of. And my watch had also gone flat. So I think
Right.
a lot of people would have that as an idea. It's not accurate because your watch takes into account you running around people on the track and also going off to go to the bathroom and that sort of thing, whereas the official time doesn't count that. But at least you'd have some idea. But I had nothing. And apparently you need that knowledge or stimulus when you get that deep into a race like that.
Yeah. Was that like, did you go and get yourself a new watch after that?
No, I think it's the same watch, but what I was doing in that race that I've stopped doing was I was using it to stream music off it. So, because it's got the Bluetooth function, you can play Spotify to your headphones, and that obviously drained the battery. But I didn't want to be carrying my phone around with me, but I've since learnt that that's really the only alternative. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure. And you won the Guzzler?
Yes, I did. That is a tough, tough race. 4,600 meters of vert. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
hard.
And that was
Yeah,
a course record as well, wasn't it?
it was. Yeah.
And then you won the Surf Coast Century too.
Yes. Yeah. That was a good race. Pretty proud of that one. Hard work. And the record was very it was up there. I think Kelly Angel held it. And actually, I thought I knew what the record was, but I hadn't gone back through the results for enough years. And I was looking at another one that had been set by Anna McKenna, which thankfully was only about 45 seconds slower than Kelly's. But I thought that I'd taken too long. The last section is like, close to the finish is like a long section of really soft sand along a beach, and the tide was right in and the waves were coming up, and sometimes it'd be like waist deep, and me and a couple of guys that I was with were sort of clinging onto these fence posts at the top of the beach trying not to get washed away. And by the time I got off that beach, I thought, oh no, the record's well and truly gone. So I was very surprised to hear when I was coming into the finishing straight, I could hear the announcer on the PA saying, oh, she's got 400 meters to run. If she does it in under such and such a time, she's going to break the record. And then people started running back onto the course to meet me and say, come on, you've got to keep going. We're going to break the record. And made me sprint the final 400 meters, which wasn't very fun. But yeah, that was probably the favorite race finish I've ever done. It was such a good vibe with all the people at the finish, and yeah, lots of cheering and excitement. It was really good.
Yeah, awesome. And you've had another big year so far this year as well. Eighth at Tarawera 100K.
Yeah, that was a bit disappointing, that race. I was really hoping to finish higher up and score myself a golden ticket to Western States. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed with that one, but it really was a world-class field, and I didn't have the best day out there. So yeah, I came back and decided to go for redemption by heading to Canberra to do another 24-hour race.
Yeah, right. So that was actually kind of a late notice run, that 24-hour.
Yeah, I didn't decide to do it till about 3 weeks beforehand because I wanted to give myself a week to recover from Tarawera and see how I pulled up. And then, yeah, it was only 3 weeks away. So we quickly made all the arrangements and jumped in. And yeah, pretty glad that I did.
Yeah, well, you broke all your own Australian records again. And where did you finish and placed your third or fourth all time in the world?
Yes, third. So for the full 24-hour, that was the only record I broke this time. I didn't do the intermediate ones because I had a more conservative strategy to start off slower and see if I could make it to the end instead of stopping early. And it worked out for me. So yes, third in the world behind Miho Nakata from Japan and Camille Herron.
Yeah. Are they? I'm pretty sure Camille Herron's going to be there in October. Is the Japanese lady?
I'm not sure. I actually asked Camille about that because we're in touch via Messenger, but she doesn't know. She said Miho's had a number of injuries this year, so she wasn't sure if she'd be lining up, but hopefully she will be. That would be quite exciting.
Yeah. You also won the Margaret River 80K?
Yes. I won the entry to that through Surf Coast Century because they're both rapid ascent run events. And yeah, I think I've recovered well from the 24-hour. Well, I thought I did. And I was thinking, what's next? I had that free entry, and it's such a beautiful part of the world. I haven't been over there for a long time. I used to go over for the Bustleton Ironman event years and years ago. So yeah, we decided to make a quick trip over there, and yeah, it was really beautiful, but I think that my body wasn't quite as recovered as I thought it was from the 24-hour, and it was tough, a lot of soft sand running in that event as well. So yeah, I only just scraped in with the win. The next female wasn't far behind me, but yeah, great event over there.
Yeah, cool. And then I know you've done other stuff as well, like the Race the Sun and things too. But most recently, you ran the 61 yards at Dead Cow Gully to break the Australian women's record.
Yes. Yeah, that was an event. That was a big few days.
Yeah. Only Jen Russo, Courtney Dauwalter, and Meg Eckert have done more than 61. So that's 3 people ahead of you. That's
it's crazy. Yeah. I did not realize that when I was running. I had no idea, and probably if Nick or someone had told me that, I think who's the next person in front of me in the rankings? I think there's someone only a few laps in front.
It would be Courtney Dauwalter.
Yeah, if someone had told me run a few more laps and you'll be according to Walter, I'm sure I would have done it, but I didn't know. So anyway, there's always next time, isn't there?
Yeah. So when you ran at No Time to Die in 23 and finished as the assist, I understand you didn't really have much of a training block at all for that one.
No, I as we were saying about the stress fracture before Boston Marathon, I'd only just come back to running, so I'm not sure how many weeks it was, but you know, when you start back from a stress fracture, you sort of start with like a minute run or jog, a minute walk, a minute run, a minute walk, and you build up very, very slowly from that. So sort of your mileage, even I think it might have been about 10 weeks or something before I did No Time to Die. Yes, my mileage wasn't very high, so I wasn't expecting a great deal in that race. I sort of did it because Sean, the race organizer, asked me to come. He was sort of billing it as a bit of a battle of the females, and some of the really good girls from Western Australia were coming over, and so he wanted to make it a bit of a thing, and I said, yep, sure. I had a free entry because he gave us all free entries after Hysterical Carnage, which was cancelled. Um, so I thought there's no harm in doing it, but I didn't even take the Monday off work because I didn't expect to still be running. So when it came to Sunday and we were still going, I was sort of thinking about, you know, we had to pack up and drive all the way home, which is 3 hours out of Adelaide, and sort of have a sleep and everything, and go back to work the next morning. So that and the injury and the risk of re-injury really played on my mind, and sort of gave me that decision to stop in the end.
Yeah. Did running at No Time to Die with not much of a training block, did it make it harder, like physically? Was it a physically pretty hard race or was it still?
I didn't find the running too physically hard, except for the fact that the course there is dead flat, which I thought would be great, but in fact it actually hurts your body a lot because you're not ever using any different muscles. But what I found the hardest about the race was the cold overnight. I don't deal well with the cold, and even though it probably only got to about 10 degrees, it felt much colder. And you know, when you go into the tent and you're warm from running, and then you sit down for 10 or 15 minutes, it's when you get up and go back to the start line and you're wet and the wind blows on you. It's just absolutely miserable. So that, and I guess the mental, you know, I was buying into the thoughts about potential re-injury and that sort of thing far too much. So yeah, I've learnt some valuable lessons from that.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what lessons did you take note of for next time from that run at No Time to Die? Was there any, like, anything strategy or um, tactics that you learned from that race?
Yeah, a lot of things. So I think I went too fast early in the race. And one thing I've noticed, well, Jess, who ended up winning that race, she went very slowly at the start of the race. So I've adapted my strategy now, and I don't go anywhere near as fast at the start of the race. And then dealing with the cold, so just having better gear, but also visualizing. So that's a mindset trick that my mindset coach Rob has taught me, is that pre-race you can visualize yourself coming into the tent and imagine that everything's going to be really warm and toasty, and you're going to feel warm, or imagine, you know, sunshine on you or something like that. So rather than, you know, getting yourself worked up, and I used that before Dead Cow Gully because I was aware that it could be really, really cold at night. So I definitely practiced, and we were lucky that it didn't get too cold in the end, but I'd spent a lot of time visualizing this warm and toasty tent that I'd be going into, and how enjoyable it would be.
Yeah.
So that, and packing heaps more clothing, and we had a portable gas heater, we had a 12-volt electric blanket, we had all sorts of things to combat the cold. And then just, I guess, mentally staying in the present and not worrying about things that may or may not happen in the future, like getting injured. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're actually out there running a loop in the cold, like, to make yourself feel better, you just imagine how good you're going to feel when you get back into your marquee. Is that kind of like how you do it?
Yes, or you can put yourself in a place where, so, you know, when people say go to your happy place, you could go to a place where in your mind, you say, I'm on the beach. It's really sunny. It's really warm, or I'm in a sauna, and you just imagine yourself there. And yeah, imagine yourself being warm. It sounds very strange, but it does work.
Yeah, cool. So when did you decide you were all systems go for Dead Cow Gully?
I think uh, it was definitely on my mind since after Tarawera because I knew that I didn't have the golden ticket and Western States is in June, so that would definitely have conflicted with Dead Cow Gully. But then I knew that we wouldn't be going to America for that. So I thought, well, I've got a ticket. I'd had a ticket for about a year, so I might as well use it, and it'll be a good chance to race against some of those really, really good runners that were coming from overseas and Australia as well.
Yeah,
So probably after the 24 hour and after Margaret River, yeah, just to make sure that I didn't do myself an injury or have a really hard time recovering. But yeah, after Margaret River, I think it was maybe only 4 weeks or so after that Dead Cow Gully was. So I did a lot of racing in a short space of time in the first half of the year.
yeah. And is that what attracted you to Dead Cow Gully was the amazing runners who were going to be there?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a huge pull. And I think that's probably one of the challenges that we face now with it's great that backyard ultras are getting so popular and there's one nearly every weekend somewhere in Australia, but it does dilute the pool of excellent runners because you can only do so many. And especially if you're going to do a Phil Gore and run for 5 days, well, Phil could probably do that every weekend, but most of us mere mortals, we can't. So we have to pick and choose. And if we're going to go big, it's probably 1 to 2 in a year, especially for me because I love the other formats of racing as well. Yeah, I'm really limited to how many I can do. So whichever one I choose, I want it to be, the best chance of getting a good result. And that was Dead Cow Gully. It was really exciting to meet all those big names from overseas and yeah, so interesting to run and chat to all those different people and sort of the hype around it was something that you don't usually get, I suppose, with a backyard ultra.
Yeah. Were there any runners, or which runners were you particularly excited to meet and run with?
I'm going to butcher his name, but Marine.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Nick calls him Mergen.
right.
Yeah, he was really interesting, and we actually ran along and spoke in French at one stage, which was really cool. I've been learning French for our upcoming trip to France, and obviously him being I think from Belgium, they speak French there, so we had a little chat in French, which was really cool. Um, who else did I speak to? I didn't get a chance to speak to Jen. We were really running at different paces. I didn't speak to Harvey Lewis either. I had some really good chats with Mitchie Bagman.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to him. He was great. And Simon McLean from New Zealand. It was the first time I'd met him, but yeah, he was a superstar. So yeah, made lots of new friends there, which was awesome.
yeah, cool. Yeah, I spoke to him after the podcast that we did. We were having a bit of a chat, and he told me he spoke to you, and I told him that you were a sailor because you're really into sailing, right?
Yes.
He's actually his job is like something like designing and making like sailboats for the New Zealand America's Cup.
Oh, wow. He must have had a shirt on that had something about sailing because my dad, he makes masts and things for boats and he was there as one of my support crew and he sees this guy in his t-shirt. He's like, why is that? Why has he got, I don't know what it was on there, spars or something. He was really interested.
Yeah,
So there you go. It's a weird, but there's quite a number of people that are into or have been into sailing and also ultra running, which is a strange combination, but yeah, seems to work.
yeah, cool. Yeah, I don't know, but what do you think it might be? Because do you think it could be like because you do a lot of your sailing? Is it solo or
Yes. I
yeah,
have a one person dinghy that I sail.
yeah.
I think it's the resilience. I think because I started sailing when I was about 6, And, I grew up in Tassie, so we would go out. This is probably why I hate the cold. And we would go out, it would be freezing cold, windy, raining, really scary for a young kid. And sometimes you'd have to be out there for hours. There might be big waves, sometimes you'd capsize, fall out of the boat. You had to deal with a lot of things, I think, that are pretty confronting for a kid, and probably a lot of people don't have that experience growing up, especially these days. So I think that really built even though, I didn't know it at the time and I've only just started to realize it, it's why I can deal with being uncomfortable in running races for such a long time.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. So Dead Cow Gully was in June, and as far as timing goes, I was wondering what would have been the closest date to the 24-hour champs in October that you still would have been comfortable going all in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did think about this, and I I was off running for about 5 weeks after Dead Cow Gully, and I had planned to start a build from Worlds 12 weeks out, which was 4 weeks, I believe, after Dead Cow Gully. So I was a week later starting training, and I was starting from a much lower base than I had planned to be. I think if my leg had taken another week to get right after Dead Cow Gully, I would have seriously considered pulling the plug. But it's all in your head. I mean, lots of people said to me, you've got such a base fitness, you'll get it back, 8 weeks is plenty, 10 weeks is plenty. But for me, there's something about having this 12-week build that mentally feels right. And I think especially because I was starting from a lower level, having not done any running at all for 5 weeks, I felt like I really needed that time frame. So I think I only just scraped in.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. All right. And when you were training for Dead Cow Gully, were you training just like you would for a 24-hour track race, or any differences at all?
Leading up to Dead Cow Gully, I did a few race simulations. So on the weekend, I would do a 6 hour race sim, so 6 laps of 6.7 Ks with a 10 to 15 minute break in between each one, which I practice sleeping or lying down and resting, because that's something I find really difficult in the races, is to actually sleep. And then also practiced eating some solid food and that sort of thing, because obviously you don't do that. Well, I don't do that in a 24-hour race. It's mainly just sports nutrition. So that's a point of difference for the backyard ultra, and something that I wanted to practice. Yeah, but I'd say that's the main difference, just doing those really targeted race simulations.
Yeah, okay. And how did you enjoy the Dead Cow Gully course? Like, I mean, a lot of people would think it would be the easiest course on earth because of the world record and things like that, but
Mm.
it's not that easy, is it?
No, it's not. I actually really liked it, especially early on. I think it's very scenic, it's very beautiful, um, but it's very hard underfoot. And I think a lot of people found this and they had problems with their feet. I think it's just the tufts of grass, because a lot of it is just a mown paddock and it's very lumpy. It's got cow pats everywhere. And that's not something I was used to. Although I do a lot of trail running, even that is quite different, I think. So that's something I would train specifically for and buy a lot of new different footwear for if I was going to do Dead Cow Gully again. And I think probably another challenge with the course is, with a lot of backyard ultras, the course tells you where you should walk.
Mm.
But Dead Cow Gully, apart from in the actual gully itself, which is probably a 400-meter section, there aren't a lot of other places that are either really technical or really steep or stairs or anything else like that. There was a few little wooden bridges that you had to use to cross sort of creeks or swampy areas. But the rest of it was fairly easy running, either over a paddock or on a gravel road. So, yeah, you had to kind of make it up yourself as to where you wanted to walk and where you wanted to jog. But it was interesting at night how, in the day, the gravel road looked quite flat. But then come the night, it looked like it was a mountain. You'd see these head torches of the people up in front of you, and you think, oh my goodness, they're like 50 meters up, 100 meters up in the air. and
Yeah.
this road looked like it was just going up into the sky. And then the daylight would come back and you realize that actually the road's pretty flat. It was bizarre how that happened.
So with that day course, like how long did it take you to find your rhythm and figure out where you would walk and where you would run, or did you just set your timer and just like run 5 minutes, walk 2 minutes, or something like that?
Initially, well, it changed all the time because it started off with such a crowd of runners. And because I had learnt from previous events that I should start off slow, I put myself towards the back of the pack thinking everybody else in front of me will be slow. So I'll be forced to go slow. And that sort of worked, but everyone was so slow that once you got through the gully, you were then sort of forced to run the rest of the course to get to get back in time. So I changed my tactic and I went closer to the front of the group, and then I was able to control it a bit better, but I'd still just do it as I felt the walking and running. I didn't ever use a timer. Some people were using timers, and if I was chatting with that specific person, I might stop, walk and run on their time schedule. Or yeah, I did spend probably the first day was all chatting with people, so I just tuck in with what they were doing and their strategy. But I did have I knew that I wanted to come in around 50 to 52 minutes, and I knew what average pace that was. So I'd check my watch every now and again and try and make sure I was staying around that pace.
Yeah.
But yeah, not too scientific.
Yeah, yeah. And just off the top of your head, what would that pace be? About 7:30 or?
Yeah, it was about 7:30, 7:15 to 7:30.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And how much like pre-race planning did you do around things like what you would eat, pacing strategy and sleep and things like that?
I did a lot of pre-race planning that mostly went to waste.
Oh,
I borrowed Phil's template. So he's, as you know, Phil's so good about sharing his knowledge and experience, and he shared his Excel template with me, which I spent hours and hours filling out, even though I was thinking, how on earth am I going to know what I'm going to want to eat in 48 hours, 54 hours? I've got no idea, so I'll just write things in. But we printed this thing out and it was on a huge big piece of paper, but the writing was still so small because I'd planned to go up to 121 hours. And so mum and dad, who had come to crew for me, they said, we can't read it, Hol, it's too small. They couldn't see it. And I think the plan got followed for maybe 5 or 6 hours, and then it completely disappeared and no one ever looked at it or gave it a second thought. So all of that planning time went to waste.
So you mentioned before the sleep thing, like, did you manage to get any or much sleep during the race?
Yes, I did, mainly on the second night because I think you're just so tired that you can't help it. So the first night I was coming back to the tent and having a lay down. I had a strategy where I'd do two faster laps and then a slower lap. And on the faster laps, I would try and sleep. I'd lie down on the mattress, but I couldn't really. You're so wired. I couldn't really sleep, but I did rest. Then on the second night, we'd basically just moved our camp to a chair up near the finish line, and I was so tired that I'd come back and I'd sit in the chair and I'd go straight to sleep, and then get woken up by those horrible cowbells ringing. But yeah, I did get lots of chunks of like sort of 5 to 7 minutes probably in the second night.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Did you have a caffeine plan? Did you have any caffeine?
I did have some caffeine and I did have it planned, but as I said, the plan sort of went out the window. So it was very ad hoc, I think. Probably just if I came back and remembered to ask for it. What did we use? I used some caffeinated Morton gels. I used some Revi strips. I think that's a. But I think I had one of the Nootropics Beta Fuel SIS gels, but they tend to muck up my stomach, so I think I only had one of those. They've got about 200 milligrams of caffeine in them, I think. But I don't do. A lot of people will try to avoid it for as long as they possibly can, and then start on the caffeine. I don't do that. I had a coffee Yes, I would have had a coffee before the race started, and then just every yeah, it probably would have been planned out to be about every 8 hours, but I think it just became whenever it was remembered about, or like everything else, kind of just in an ad hoc fashion, which is a bit disappointing. But yeah, nothing goes perfectly, does it?
Yeah. Was breaking the Australian record, was that like a huge motivation or driver for you?
Yeah, I suppose it was. Yeah, it definitely was. And it turned out to be really enjoyable because Jane from New Zealand was also breaking the New Zealand record on the same lap. So that was really cool. We got to run together for that lap and just had a bit of a chat. And yeah, it was a really exciting atmosphere to finish that lap. Um, but yeah, I suppose it was a milestone that was marked on my plan, but it wasn't the be all and end all. I planned to go sort of further than that, and further than I actually ended up going. But it was a really nice sort of milestone to achieve for sure.
Yeah. So, what kind of things were you thinking about during the race to keep you going when you did want to stop?
Um, That's a good question. I distracted myself a lot. I talked to other people, or I listened to an audiobook, or listened to some music. My plan going in was to send voice messages to friends and receive voice messages, which is something that I do when I'm out training, and I know that it makes the time go really fast. But because there wasn't any phone reception out there, that plan did not happen, which was disappointing. Um, there was a lot of people there supporting me, so that was a big motivation as well. I had one of my colleagues who works in Toowoomba came out for a little while and to check out the race. Mum and Dad obviously had flown up from Tassie. My brother-in-law Tim come up from Wollongong to help out for the first couple of days. There was another couple from New Zealand that happened to be in town that came out to say hello, and my friend Dom from the Sunshine Coast. There was a lot of Sunshine Coast people there, which makes sense because it's sort of close. And then I think as you go further and further into the race, random people on the sidelines that you don't even know, they start to become your friends and your cheer squad, or they might have talked to your support crew, and then they start supporting you as well. And you see them at the end of every lap, and they're cheering for you, and you think, "Oh, can't let that random stranger down. I better keep
Yeah.
going." You know.
Yeah. So, do you remember at what stage of the race you might have started thinking things like, I'm not too sure if I want to do this for much longer?
Yeah. Well, I think that comes up a few times, but you sometimes you can banish it. And but I think when it really set in was well, so the first time was I think I had a shower on about lap was just either just before or just after we broke the record. And I had been wearing long tights, and it was the first time I took them off and I realized that my knee was puffed up, like it was huge.
Right.
And I hadn't even noticed. I knew it had felt sore, and I'd been asking people to put, Nurofen cream and that sort of thing on it. But I hadn't really looked at it or thought too hard about it. And when I looked at it and saw that it was huge, that was probably when the first doubts started creeping in, like, oh no, what's going on here? This could be something serious. If this gets worse, maybe I won't be able to race in the worlds. And then, so that I think that was around 50-ish. And then about 55, there was just one spot on the course that had reception. And when I would run past that spot, sometimes because I had my headphones on, Siri would start reading out text messages that I'd received. And she started reading out some text messages. It was a group chat between my work colleagues. And my colleague, who's also called Holly, who works in Toowoomba, she had texted the group saying, I think I'm going to go out there and watch, but I don't know whether to go now or later. And I actually got on the phone and texted her a message saying, I think you should come out now because I'm not sure how much further I'm going to be able to go. I think I might have about 60 laps in me. And this was about probably lap 55. So she came out, and I think then I had in my head 60 because I'd said I might have 60 laps in me. So I was thinking 60, 60, 60. And then I thought, oh, having 10 more laps in the record, that's a nice number. And it's also a bit of a random number. So it won't look like I thought 60 and then I stopped at 60. It'll look like I really had to pull out, because it's a random number. You have time to think so many weird thoughts in these races. So I just got 61 in my head and that was it. 61 it was.
Yeah, okay. So with this swollen knee, you said you didn't really notice much pain coming from it, but when you actually saw it, did it did it start hurting more because you knew it was puffed up?
No, it didn't start hurting more. It was just, yeah, it was a sort of mild ache. But yeah, I think in your mind you start going, oh, what's wrong with it? There's something really definitely wrong. It's not just in my head, it's a real thing. And it could be something really bad, that sort of health anxiety sort of thing, which yeah, it turned out to be a hematoma in the end.
Right. Okay. Cool. So does
Mm.
that mean it's still there, or it just?
No, it's gone now, but it took a long time to resolve. That's why I couldn't run for so long after the race. It took, yeah, 5 to 6 weeks to go away, and I couldn't bend my knee at all. So in the race, I had started running with this funny shuffling sort of gait because my knee wouldn't bend, and then on lap 61, my ankle started hurting, which would have been because I was using it differently because I couldn't bend my knee. And yeah, that was like a confirmation to me. It was like, okay, because your knee is messed up, other parts of your body are going to start compensating. And even if your knee is not a serious thing, you soon will have serious injuries in other places. So, this is right. You better stop. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I remember it was probably around loop 45. It was definitely at night time. And in the starting corral, you were looking a bit stressed. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, there was definitely some really challenging times in the second night. And I think um, that was partly because I think Nick was there on his own crewing me and he was quite sleep deprived and he was having trouble, I guess, managing everything because it is a lot of things that you need doing. You've only got 10, 12 minutes with the person and they need food, they need a foot bath, they need sleep, they need this, that, and the other. And he's there on his own with a mind that's not working correctly because he hasn't slept in 2 or 3 days. And because we were now on this chair up near the finish line, but all of our stuff was still in the tent that was 100 meters down the road. So he's trying to juggle, running up and down the road, getting the stuff and getting me sorted out. And it just all became a little bit too much. And then I was taking it upon myself, like, oh, I'm too much. I'm asking too much. I'm too demanding, you know, and I just got really upset about it. And, I think we're both pretty stubborn people that don't like to ask for help. So, yeah, we just felt a bit stuck. And yeah, nighttime is always challenging anyway. I think because your energy is down and you're just so tired and grouchy. So it was a tough time, but we pulled through. The sun came up and everything was suddenly better.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember there was a few runners who got around you. I remember Phil in particular was got around you and yeah, it was obvious that people were helping you like out there when the loop started.
Yeah, they're so great. And Phil was awesome. He just did his utmost to help me. Yeah, anything I needed, he was giving me tips and tricks for how to remember all the things that I needed and giving me suggestions of what I could take or should take when I got back. And even, yeah, lent me a few things and asked his support crew to come and give Nick a hand. And yeah, he was just great. I think that's probably that atmosphere that you need. If a whole bunch of people are going to go big, you need that sort of group support because, yeah, one or two people can't do it on their own.
Yeah. So I'm tipping that there are stages during a 24-hour track race where the pain levels are close to 10 out of 10. Would that be right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely. There are stages that are really, really tough. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did running Dead Cow Gully compare in that way?
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a different sort of pain. Because you're going so much slower. Well, I do anyway. I know Phil says that he runs at the same pace and just walks more if he wants a slower lap. But for me, I just run a lot slower and I also walk a little bit as well. And I think that places a lot more load on your joints and just it changes your whole gait. So things hurt that you're not used to hurting. It's a different sort of, almost, I'd say it's more in your joints than whereas the 24 hour is more a muscular
Mhm.
sort of pain, more of a lactic acid, I guess, because you're going faster. And that foot pain that I had in Dead Cow Gully, I've never had that in a 24 hour because you're running on a soft, smooth surface. There's no sort of challenges to your feet. And I guess with the 24 hour, it's for me, I find it easier to keep pushing because you know where the finish line is. And even though it feels like a long way off sometimes, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, there's still 12 hours to go. There's still 10 hours to go. There's still 8 hours to go. Um, I'm working on my mindset to not think that way because that's not helpful. But with a backyard ultra, there is no finish line. So you are just stuck in this mindset of I could be feeling this pain forever. I don't know when it's going to stop. And that's not helpful either. And the truth is that you do go through painful parts and then it miraculously goes away. So you need to sort of stop yourself thinking just because it's hurting now means it's going to get continuously worse or that it's not going to go away. You have to remind yourself that, you know, just distract yourself and it'll disappear on its own. Yeah, two different types of pain and two different types of trying to motivate yourself to get to the end.
Yeah. So you mentioned your folks were at Dead Cow Gully, and I think you told me it was actually the first time they'd seen you in action at any type of ultra.
Yeah, yeah. I guess we've been living in different states for a long time, and they used to come and watch me, or they were very, very involved in my sailing career when I was young. And then I got into cycling, and they'd come and watch some cycling events and that sort of thing, but they'd never seen me do an ultra run ever. So it was really great to have them there. And they're actually, I found out they were going to surprise me by turning up in France unannounced for the Worlds, but I found out their plans. So yeah, it'll be really good to have the support for the 24-hour worlds as well.
Yeah, awesome. And what did they say afterwards? Like, did they love it?
I think it was very much an experience, a bit of an eye opener. Mum said she was glad that I stopped when I did because she hated seeing me in pain, even though she was trying to prevent herself from saying that because we tried to lay out some ground rules at the start and have a bit of a briefing and say, you know, Holly is going to be in pain. She's going to be in tears, but you're not allowed to tell her she should stop. You have to tell her to keep going. You're not allowed to let her stop. And that's, I think, as a parent, that must be very hard to wrap your head around, like pushing your child to experience more pain. But they did a great job for their first ultra. I think, yeah, it's when you don't understand that world at all, and you don't know anything about sports nutrition or um, any of that sort of thing. It must have been a whole new world for them. But I think they enjoyed the atmosphere. And I think a lot of people came up to them and sort of said, oh, are you Holly's parents? You must be so proud. And of course, that's that's something they really enjoy. So yeah, I think they had a good time.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I can imagine that, especially people who don't really aren't at ultras. They'll go there and see people like runners drinking Coca-Cola, and they think, "Hang on, Coca-Cola's bad for you. Why are they drinking
Oh,
Coca-Cola?"
yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. As a dietitian, that's a very something you see all the time in clients is that they've got this one idea about nutrition that comes from the general media that's meant for sedentary people, and they have trouble wrapping their head around how that's absolutely not the case for people doing ultra marathons or sort of most types of physical activity.
Yeah. So you finished after doing 61 yards. I mean, I might be wrong, but I got the impression it was mental fatigue that got you in the end.
Yeah, I was probably a combination of things. Definitely the injury, the health anxiety, the thinking about how's this going to place me for worlds. But yeah, just being sick of it. Like I was over it. I didn't want to be out there anymore. I was done. I wanted to go home, have a shower, have a sleep. Um, I was also, I think I was a day ahead of myself, but I was thinking about mum and dad had to go home on the Tuesday morning, and I think in my head I was thinking it was Monday morning. I had it a day wrong anyway, and I was thinking, well, what's going to happen when they go home? Nick can't possibly crew me on his own for more time, so I'd like to be able to go home and have a meal with mum and dad and say thank you and goodbye before they have to go to the airport and that sort of thing. All of these things that are very like you can't afford to think this way if you want to be a Phil Gore, but unfortunately that's the way my brain works.
Yeah. So over the next few days after the race ended, like, did you think much about if you should have and could have kept going?
Yeah, of course you do. You start thinking about that almost immediately. And the answer is yes, I could have kept going. Of course. I think it almost always is, except if you're Sam Harvey on lap 118 or 119. But I also accepted that I really didn't want to go anymore at that point in time. And, thinking about the fact that I'm 36 and Jen Russo is 59, I want to say. And she, obviously one of the best in the world. I've got a lot of time that I can get better at backyard ultras. I don't need to be the best in the world at my age now. I can concentrate on being good at other formats, and in 20 years I can be the world's best female backyard ultra runner.
Yeah.
So I wasn't too disappointed. The only thing is, it's such a difficult to get to that point, to get to 61 hours. It's a long time. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of other people's effort and all of those things. You don't want to have to go and recreate that to then go further. But I just think, yeah, my support crew was pretty much at its wit's end, and I was pretty mentally done. So I'm happy with what I did there, even though I know I can go further in a future race.
Yeah, cool. So what was the recovery? It sounds like the recovery was tough, but what was it like, the recovery like after 61 yards compared to a 24-hour track race?
I find the recovery well, actually, it's quite mixed because it depends what happens to my body. So after the 24-hour race I did last year, I ended up in hospital with some weird swollen purple leg that took probably 6 weeks or so to heal. And then after No Time to Die, I think I was fine. Whereas this year, I pretty much walked away after the 24-hour unscathed. I was walking the next day. And after Dead Cow Gully, I had that hematoma in my quad, and I couldn't bend my knee for 5 or 6 weeks. So it really just depends, I think, what happens to the body. And I don't know what that relates to, whether it's something I'm doing in training in the lead up or something I'm doing during the race. I would love to know how to avoid it, but I haven't got that far yet. So yeah, I think I just have to keep doing what I'm doing, and if there becomes a bit of a pattern to it, look into it further. But yeah, I feel like I'm doing everything I can with strength work and trying to recover it as best as I can amongst my other commitments and that sort of thing. I just think that my body is probably a little bit more fragile than some other people's, and I certainly wish I was like Phil and I could turn around and run a 17-minute park run 2 days after Dead Cow Gully, but it doesn't seem to be how my body works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that hematoma in your leg could have just been like a couple of missteps, like on the course. Like you might have just like going down one of those steep 1 meter drops or going up one of those little hills. It could have just been something like that did it.
Yeah, that's possible, or just simple overuse. I did feel at one stage something in their sort of twang, and I thought, let's get the spiky ball in there or something, which we might have done once or twice, but things get lost there's such a rush of things to do in those little gaps of time. And even the sports doctor that I saw afterwards, he said, I didn't really, until I saw the MRI images, I didn't really believe your story. I don't think a hematoma occurs just from overuse. It's usually a traumatic injury. If you told me you were playing football and somebody kicked you in the leg, I'd believe you. But running 400 kilometers doesn't usually result in this sort of injury.
Yeah.
So just a bit of a mystery.
Yeah. So I heard you on the Peak Too Soon podcast a while ago, and you told Brent, I think you said it breaks your heart that there are so few women or no women on the Australian Backyard Ultra team at that point in time. Right at the moment, there are no women on the Australian at large list. But what do you think the reasons for that are?
That's a great question, Pato. It's something I've thought about a lot and probably that I have more insight into after Dead Cow Gully. I think there's a lot of different reasons. I think physiologically we're different. I think potentially like hormones play a role. Our bodies are a little bit more fragile. We don't maybe recover as quickly because we don't have as much testosterone, that sort of thing. I think socially there's a lot of reasons. um, Coming back to my thoughts around looking after my support crew and that sort of thing, I think, maybe stereotyping here, but perhaps women are socialized to think about others before themselves, especially if they're mums. I'm not, but I think, yeah, that can come into play, that you're thinking about the welfare of your support crew and perhaps family that you're not spending time with, or what's going on at home or at work that you're not able to be handling while you're out there running. Um, what other reasons play into it? I guess, yeah. I don't know if you want this mentioned on your podcast, but menstrual cycles. Like I punched into chat GBT to try and figure out what were the chances of having it if you're doing a race that lasts, say, 5 days. And because you can't pinpoint the day that the race starts, the mathematical probability is really high. But I guess the facilities that are abundant at the race, there's challenges with the hygiene, there's challenges with accessing private spaces, that sort of thing, and that managing that aspect of things takes time. It takes privacy. It takes being able to have proper hygiene and this sort of thing. And that's in the middle of nowhere in a paddock on a farm. Some of those things aren't really accessible. So, yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of reasons, but I think I understand more now that it yeah, there's a lot of barriers for women, and I think that we'll keep getting better, and there'll continue to be more women up there, but it's sort of taking us a bit more time to catch up to the men, and whether we ever really will, I don't know, but it's certainly a very interesting question.
Mm. So, did you hear Sean's announcement that Ultra Series are going to be putting up $10,000 to anyone who breaks the Australian women's record at Melbourne front yard, and an extra 5,000 if they also break the world record?
I've seen that. It's really interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, Sean asked me about it like a few days after Dead Cow Gully, and I said, "Too soon, Sean, too soon." I think, yeah, it's really interesting that he's focused on the female side of it, because ultimately, and you would have seen this with Nachi competing in Clint Eastwood just the other weekend, you need people there that can go further than you because of the way a backyard ultra runs. You can't just collect the best female runners and hope that one person breaks the world or the national record, because you need two people to do it. So we need to also attract the very best male runners. Like, I don't think I would enter unless there were at least two people that I knew that could go significantly further than I can, because I don't want to be stuck in that situation with Nachi. Like, it's great to win the race overall, but I know she would have wanted to break the record, but you can only go one lap further than the assist. And if you've not got an assist there that can break the record too, you're kind of a bit stuck. So I think you've got to attract both male and female runners that are quality, and also the cost. It costs thousands of dollars, especially to go interstate and race with a support crew of, say, 3. You're looking at flights, accommodation, travel, gathering all the gear that you need, all the sports nutrition. to be honest, even $10,000 prize money, you're barely going to break even for that. And you think about the time off work, like for us public servants, we get 20 days a year. So you take a quarter of that to go and do a backyard ultra. I'm taking 7 weeks to go. We're going to Europe for the world. So that'll be all the leave that I've got, plus a few weeks of unpaid leave. I'm not going to have any annual leave accrued by May probably, but yeah, I think it is difficult. Yeah, you sort of really, maybe you're attracting, I don't know, younger runners or professional athletes, or I don't know. It's certainly an interesting concept, and hopefully I'm there, but I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So the 24-hour world in France, like, how's all the preparation for it coming along?
Yeah, not too bad, apart from the late start. And then when I did get back into running, I think I was in a bit of a hurry because I felt like I was already behind. And whether or not I just ramped up the running too quickly, I ended up with shin splints. So then I had to back off the running again, and just throw in a few extra cycling and swimming sessions. Um, and but yeah, it's starting to get better now. It's been a busy time. I've had to go to Tassie twice since I got back into running because my grandfather got ill and then passed away. So um, it's been very up and down and mixed. So just banking on like some good mental training and going into it with the mindset that I have the ability. I know I've got the ability to run 263. Hopefully with the hype and the competitors and the other people running around my pace at Worlds, that'll be something that gives me a boost as well. And we are, as I said, we're going over quite early before the race. So I'll have 4 weeks where I'll be able to just focus on training. I won't have to worry about work. I will be taking study with me, but we're going to be in the mountains in France, holed up in a little Airbnb with not much else to think about, but actually just running and adapting and eating, and focusing on recovery. So I'm really hoping that those last few weeks will give me the boost that I need.
Yeah, it sounds unreal. It sounds like the mindset training that you've been doing is a massive thing. When did you start like doing the mindset stuff?
That is a good question. I think I definitely started before Tarawera. I think Tarawera was in February this year, and that was probably the first big event that I did since starting the mindset coaching. And it's been invaluable. Like I think I naturally had some good strategies, but it was more something that was subconscious rather than something that I consciously thought about. And I've definitely added a lot of new tools to my toolkit and sort of become more specific about what tools that I use in which races. So yeah, it's been huge. I think it's such a big part of ultra running. Yeah, I don't know what the split is between physical and mental, but mental's definitely a huge part of it.
Yeah. So have you been to France before?
I have, on a school trip in year 11. So
Okay.
I don't know, 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
And, when you're a teenager, you're a little bit more focused on not the cultural delights of the country, but, kid stuff. So I didn't really appreciate what I was seeing. But I am going back to one city that we went to on that school trip, which is Annecy, is on a lake near the Alps. So we're flying into Geneva in Switzerland and then spending a couple of days in Annecy before we head up into the mountains. But I learnt French at school and I've been going to classes all this year, once a week, in person to try and improve my skills so I can communicate well when we get there, which is, yeah, exciting, but a bit daunting.
Yeah, cool. Do you do it on Duolingo as well?
I do duo as well. Yeah, I've got like I don't know, 730-day streak or something. I nearly lost it in Dead Cow Gully, and I was so upset, but it let me win my streak back, so it was all good.
So people talk about whether or not backyard ultras should be in the Olympics, but I mean, I reckon that a 24-hour track race would be perfect as an Olympic sport. Like, what do you think?
Oh, I haven't heard either of those things before. I've heard about trail running being added, which I
Yeah.
definitely agree with. Yes, I would love to see something longer added to the Olympics, but realistically, it's got to be a spectator sport, doesn't it? And I think backyard ultras, as much as your live stream was the most entertaining thing I've seen this year, is probably not the best spectator sport. So, I think a 24-hour. Yeah, I mean it's on a track. People can come and watch. They could come in and out. Um, that could possibly be a format. I mean, I'd love to see something obviously that I would be good at going into the Olympics. I don't think, I'm probably a bit old for that sort of thing now, but yeah, they are talking about introducing trail running at Brisbane 2032, but I'm sure it's going to be something like a 20 or 30K trail run, whereas I'd love to see it being 100Ks or 100 miles. Simply, I've got a vested interest. I'd love to be on that team, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I think it would be fantastic for ultra running if we were in the Olympics because then there'd be more funding into the sport. And at the moment, we've got such amazing athletes in this sport, but they're all having to self-fund themselves, start up GoFundMe accounts just to get to the World Championships and things like that, which it's really sad and disappointing when you see the amounts of money that are funneled into other sports that are in the Olympics or have that corporate sort of sponsorship. So yeah, anything we can do to boost our visibility is good, and the Olympics would be a huge platform. But I don't know. I think you should start the movement, Pato.
Yeah. So from speaking to you in the past and listening to you on other podcasts, I get the impression that there are two things on top of your like running bucket list, I guess you could say. And tell me if I'm right or tell me if I'm wrong. But I've got breaking the 24-hour record is one,
Mhm.
and the other one is running at Western States. So would that be right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, they're the two highest ranking articles on my bucket list currently.
Yeah. How many tickets will you have for the lottery at the next Western States lottery?
Only two. So last year was the first year I was in the lottery. So one ticket, and then it goes up to two, and then it's four, and then it's 16. I think that's how it works. So I think people wait on average something like 10 years to get into through the lottery. So that's why I'll be targeting golden ticket races once this world's over. There's a couple more opportunities in America, I think. So yeah, I'd love to get over there. But yeah, again, leave money. It's all limitations, but it'll happen one day, I'm sure.
Yeah. Are there any golden ticket races in Australia? Or is
Not
the
in Australia. Tarawera is the only one in the Oceania region, unfortunately. And yeah, that's quite accessible, but I tend not to go back to the same races. I feel like there's so many races to experience in the world, which is why I don't usually go back to the same ones over again. However, I do think that knowing the course is a huge advantage in trail running. So yeah, it's possible that we would go back to Tarawera. Just have to see. I think the quality of the field there this year was just so crazy. Yeah, I don't know whether I would ever be good enough for top two there, but yeah, we'll just see. All I'm focusing on at the moment is getting through Worlds and then having some time off to recover, and yeah, then we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah. Do you have a backyard ultra like long-term goal in your mind or not really?
I know I want to do another one because I know I can go further. And I think you'll always think that, even though I have in my mind that I can execute a backyard ultra perfectly and go as far as I can possibly go, the reality is that every time you finish one, you'll probably just think, no, I could have actually gone further than that. So I don't know. It would be nice to make the Australian team for satellite champs. I know that's in September next year, and it's in Wollongong, which would be quite good for us because my partner has two siblings that live in and around Wollongong with their families, and my mindset coach Rob is also based down there. So I'd have a great support crew if that was to happen. But who knows? As I said, there's so much time left for me. But I guess by the time I'm in my 50s, backyard ultras may have disappeared. Trends seem to come and go in running, don't they? So I don't know, but I will have to do another one. As much as Nick says, no, never again. He doesn't want to do another one. But I still feel like I have unfinished business.
Yeah. So, I mean, after you did so well at the last 24-hour track race this year, like there was a bit of media attention and like you were on the news and stuff. So,
Mm.
and you put the call, like you put a bit of a call out saying like there's not much money in the sport and you put a call out to any sponsors. So, like, have all these like achievements that you've made, like, have they helped with getting sponsors or are you getting much interest for sponsorships?
Unfortunately not. I don't think I used to think that every time I won another race, I would be one step closer to getting sponsorship, but I've started to realize it doesn't actually work that way. Sponsors are not particularly don't seem to be interested in your results. It's more to do with your social media following, which is pretty frustrating. You know, there's a number of people that are fully sponsored athletes that you know I would like to think that it's people that are really, really good at the sport that are getting rewarded, but just isn't that way anymore. And I don't have much time for social media, like literally and figuratively. I see, yeah, some of the detriments I think that it's had on people and in society, which I don't like. So I don't particularly want to be on there encouraging other people to consume my content, if that makes sense. But also, yeah, just with everything I've got going on in life um, I'd rather be out running out in the sunshine, doing stuff, talking to people than staring at a screen. So, and I know that's to my detriment. I know that you have to kind of be in that space if you want to win sponsorship. I do have a cousin that works in marketing that's really that wants to try and help me, but yeah, we're just so time poor that even coordinating, getting things together. Um, we just got to get onto it. Maybe after Worlds, something will happen. But yeah, I don't know, Pato. It just yeah, perhaps the trail running scene. There's a lot more professional trail runners these days, so maybe staying in that space and getting to a few more high profile events. But it's chicken and the egg, isn't it? It all costs money to get to those events. So we'll just see what happens. Maybe I can just be happy with being a good amateur athlete. And yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of the sort of person that wants to always find out what sort of potential, where is the limit for me? And I feel that it's difficult to try and attain that when you're working full time and yeah, studying as well. So I don't know. One day there might be a change. Something will happen. I just keep believing that something positive will happen eventually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're definitely right about social media and the internet. It has gone downhill, like in the last couple of years, especially. Like all it is AI now. Everything's just AI.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. I don't look too much in it, but I know how the algorithms kind of promote the stuff that's most shocking and scary and in your face, and they can incite violence and hate and this sort of thing. I know there's ways that social media can be used for good as well. But yeah, it just scare me how the world is going and how you never know what's real and
Yeah.
what's fake. It's a scary place.
Yeah. So have you had a think about how you're going to frame 2026, or is it just you'll wait and see after Worlds?
It is a bit of wait and see. Yeah, I don't think too far into the future because I just haven't got the capacity to do that. It's all sort of focused on what's happening today. How do I get through work? How do I get through study? How do I get through training today? And yeah, Worlds has been a big thing that's been um, not hanging over me, but it's there this year. So I really want to do that. And I think having the bit of free time around that during our trip to Europe, I think that will give me a lot of perspective and things might shift after that. I might get some more clarity on what I want to do with my life and my running career. But when you're just so full on day to day, there's no space, there's no white space to think about those things. So you're just focusing on putting one foot in front of the other and um, getting getting to the goal of Worlds, and then yeah, we'll see what's next after that.
Yeah. So how long are you going to be staying in Europe for after Worlds?
It's only about 9 or 10 days after Worlds. Both Nick and I have a thing about Scandinavia, so we really wanted to go on a holiday to Scandinavia.
Yeah.
And I think I might have overcommitted us on the itinerary, given that sometimes I can't even walk after one of these races. And I've booked us a 9 day whirlwind tour of Scandinavia. I think we're visiting about 5 cities in 9 days with like 3 flights, an overnight ferry, and an overnight train.
Yeah.
Um, Chat GPT AI helped me come up with the itinerary, but
Yeah.
it didn't actually tell me that I should just slow down and take a break. But once you're over there, the big cost is the flights, isn't it? And then you're like, oh, we're in Europe. We should explore and make the most of this opportunity. So that's what we wanted to do. It'll be a once in a lifetime trip, and yeah, then we'll come back and refocus on life.
So which Scandinavia, which countries is that? Is that like Sweden and Poland and things like that?
Sweden, Norway, Finland, and we're also going to Copenhagen in Denmark, which I think some people refer to as Scandinavia and some don't. There'd be other countries. Iceland would be included. We're not going there. But yeah, just having a look at a few of the major cities up there and then up to Lapland in northern Finland, which is where you can see, well, sometimes you can see the northern lights,
Right, yeah.
and do your dog sledding and sauna and ice jumping and this sort of crazy stuff. So yeah, it'll be really good. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I've been to Sweden before, but I never did any of that kind of stuff. But
What
yeah,
did you do?
I was there for a wedding, a friend's wedding.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I was in Stockholm for the whole time. But yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it. It's such a beautiful place to visit.
Oh, good. Well, we are going to Stockholm for a couple of days, and yeah, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, awesome. So it sounds like you haven't ruled out Melbourne though. Melbourne front yard next year.
No, we'll see. I mean, again, it's in May. Everything seems to culminate in May. I don't know why May, June, maybe because it's winter. It's such a big time for ultra running. But June obviously is Western States. So should I get an entry into that, that will be taking precedence. I've also always wanted to go back to Westmax Monster and do the 230K event, and that's in May. I've put that off for a number of years, but that's such a great event. But yeah, I don't know, Melbourne in May, that sounds cold. That's not my ideal climate.
You can get the nicest days in Melbourne in May. It can
Oh,
get
okay.
cold, but May
Yeah.
is pretty nice,
Okay. All right.
especially
Yeah.
early May. Yeah.
I will keep it in the back of my mind for sure. And I don't know if Sean will be posting the people that are entered, but yeah, if you get some people like Jashi or Simon McLean or God forbid Phil to sign up, I'll definitely put my name down.
Yeah, I reckon there will be some pretty good runners there because it's kind of like on the not that far off the Sat Champs. There'll only be,
Yeah.
I think, only one or two silver ticket races left in Australia after Melbourne, so it might. A lot of people will be using it as a way to run a qualifier. So I reckon there will be some pretty good runners there.
Yeah, well that's good. That's what I would hope for. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm
Yeah,
not committing. I'm
yeah,
very much a fence sitter. I know some people have their racing planned out years in advance, but that's not me. I'm more of a go with the flow and whatever takes my fancy at the time.
yeah, sure. Now you did mention the Australian Sat Champs and the at-large list before. Um, and the 61 yards you ran at Dead Cow Gully, that has you just right underneath, like you might be first or second emergency at the moment. But I reckon you'll get in with that 61 yards after non-acceptances and silver tickets. I reckon 61 will get you on the team. So you did mention it was in September, but it is actually in October.
Right.
Will you keep October free just in case it?
Yes. Yes, most likely. I don't know if I would do two backyards in a year, because as you know, they take so long to prepare for, so many resources to do, and then for me, quite often a long time to recover. So that sort of takes you out for a long time. Well, me personally, I know that's not the case for everybody, but it would probably preclude me from racing in a lot of other race formats. So yeah, I don't know if I was looking at getting into the satellite champs. I'm not sure if I would do Melbourne, but if I was not going to make the team, I might do Melbourne. But it's all very up in the air at this stage, and who knows? I mean, I only came across that 12-hour race that we both did a couple of years ago because the Hysterical Carnage got cancelled. It was really sort of by chance that happened, and then it was only because I'd done that I then entered a 24-hour race. So I could discover a completely new format of racing tomorrow, and all backyard ultra plans might go out the window for next year. Who knows?
Okay, so I like asking my guests. This is a new thing. I didn't do it 11 episodes in when you're on last. I ask my guests now for 3 backyard ultra tips at the end of each episode. So what are your 3 backyard ultra tips?
Oh gosh, that's good. I would say take a large range of footwear and clothing so you can accommodate all types of terrain and all weather. Stay in the present. Don't think about when is it going to finish or yeah, I don't know how is my recovery going to be from this race or anything else in the future. Just think about what's happening right now um uh and the last one would be have a mindset plan, have a range of techniques that you can use, like the visualization thing to overcome being cold or being in pain or whatever it is you're experiencing, and a plan of strategies you'll use to make the time pass quicker or whatever. Go in with plans for all of those things.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Well, look, thanks heaps for coming on. Congratulations on your run at Dead Cow Gully because that was awesome. And all the best at the Worlds in October. I'm really looking forward to following. It's on the same weekend as Biggs.
Yes, I know. Isn't that crazy? How ridiculous. People need to organize their race schedules better because there are a lot of people, myself and Phil included, that would love to compete at both of those events, but obviously can't. So, yeah, I think they need to coordinate better.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. Yeah, once again, all the best at Worlds, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Thanks, Pato. Enjoyed it.
Right,
Talk
thanks.
soon. Bye.